Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications.
Hope you're doing well today. It is 21 Tooth, November the 2nd, 2020. And it's a Monday, and it's a day before Tuesday, Election Day in this country. Now, if you haven't heard, the turnout has been just fantastic. You know, more people have voted already than even in the last election, in the entire last elections 4 years ago. I know I've already voted, and I regret that I only have one vote to give to my country, that's for sure. So, now here's the thing. I don't know if you received this message or this email or you saw the public service announcements on TV, but apparently this is all throughout the country in every single state. If you are a registered Republican, you are required to vote on Wednesday this time instead of Tuesday because there's so many people that are coming to vote. They're anticipating tens of millions of people to come even tomorrow to vote, that they don't want these to be these super spreader events. So they're going to split it up. The Democrats are going to vote on Tuesday, and and independents, and then the registered Republicans that have, you know, Trump 2020 stickers on their car, or, you know, a Trump Pence Make America Great sign in the front part of the yard. You guys are all required to vote on Wednesday, November the 4th. No, I'm just kidding. That sounded pretty convincing, didn't it? I tried pulling that prank on a registered Republican friend of mine, and she didn't believe it either, so I can't imagine you believing it. But no. I'm just kidding. Everybody is supposed to vote tomorrow. All right, and that's the deadline. That's it, apparently. But anyway, good luck. All right, now if this happens to be your first time ever coming to Search for Signs, I do want to thank you, and I want to thank those who have come before and those who have participated by commenting and asking questions. It's always helpful, keeps the discussion going. If you find yourself interested in this information, maybe don't quite understand what we're talking about here because it really is just a kind of a question and answer kind of discussion that we got going on. You might even say, what the hell is he talking about? In the description in every video, I have links galore about backgrounds, you know, websites you can go to about getting background information about this. Do recommend looking at the Share International website. I also have put some background videos from time to time up in this video, and the last one I did was the 9th of October, and it was entitled, What If I Told You the Christ Had Already Returned? It's a 40-minute video of the most wonderful information by the most wonderful speaker you'll ever hear, i.e. me, talking about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, who and what a master is, a brief history about the masters, and so forth. So if you find yourself a bit lost and want to know more, that's a good start for you. I do think also one of the unique values to Search for Signs is the fact that I have been willing to share my Maitreya experiences to help give a different perspective about this information. And rather than having to hunt through and find them individually, I grouped them all in a playlist entitled, What? My Maitreya Experiences. So you can go and look at it like that. And hopefully, along with it, you might remember an experience that you had that you might have forgotten about, and you might be like, maybe that was Maitreya. Who knows? You know, you just never know, because I am definitely not the only person who has had experiences with Maitreya and these Masters of Wisdom. Millions of people have. It's just that most people don't even know that he's around, don't even know he exists, right? But they might not even remember these experiences until they start putting two and two together by this information. So hopefully it'll help in that way too. I have some comments and a couple questions to cover in this video, and I always enjoy answering questions, commenting on the comments, because it does help keep the conversation going. It helps us to learn more about this information and so forth. And believe it or not, I learn just as much as the person who's asking the question by trying to answer these questions. So it's a benefit for me too, and I enjoy the questions as well. So let's get on into it. First comment comes from Joe Di Giacomo. Gary, I am so excited that I found your videos. I have been following this information about Maitreya for about 20 years. A few times I drove up to New York to see Benjamin Krim when he would come to the U.S. I was very upset when he passed away, but I'm very excited again now that I found you and these wonderful talks you put together for all of us. Thank you so much for presenting this information, and I am excited for the return of the Christ. John, I have to say, I must be pretty shallow because you definitely made my day with this comment. I really do appreciate it. Most of the time when people comment along these lines, it's the exact opposite. They can't stand what I'm saying. So every once in a while when I get that attaboy from somebody, it makes my day. So I really appreciate it, John. Now, one thing I do want to comment, a couple things actually. First of all, I understand what you're saying by the talks that I said you put together for all of us, but I do have to reiterate this. These videos are coming from you and you guys. When you ask questions, when you post comments, it gives me something to talk about. It helps me to, create the discussion and help build the inquiry about this information. So I don't like yes or no answers or multiple choice. I like questions that are thought-provoking, and the answers hopefully are even more thought-provoking. So that's the intention behind it. But I understand what you're saying. Now, the other thing too is the being upset about the passing of Benjamin Krim. I totally relate, and I know people who knew him for years too that were deeply saddened when he passed away, even though we knew it was coming because he was not getting any younger. And his health was starting to fade and so forth, but he fought to the bitter end, and it was inspiring to see it because he literally did not stop. He didn't retire, nothing. Well into his 90s, he did this, and it's been 4 years last month that he passed away. Now, I miss his perspective on things, and I'm sure you do too, and everybody else does. He had such a unique, wise perspective on current events, and then he also had an access to a master at a moment's notice that could give his perspective on current events. So as much as the world has seemed to go off the rails this year, it would have been comforting to get his insight into the coronavirus, into Black Lives Matter, into the political elections and so forth, and just, really help have a better understanding of what's going on. But, he did say, somebody asked him, who's going to carry on this work once you've passed away? And do you remember what he said? I don't know if you read it or not, but he goes, "I'll be back." So I always imagined Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice, "I'll be back," when he said that. In the meantime, until he does come back in incarnation, if he gets old enough to where he remembers even being Benjamin Krim, we're stuck with Maitreya's unique perspective. Who cares about his perspective? I'm just kidding. No. I'm quite looking forward to his unique perspective on our problems and his solutions, and I cannot wait to experience his joy on TV. I've seen it in person in my own life, but I can't wait where everybody else gets to see it. Everyone else sees the joy that I've seen when I've met him and experienced when I met him. Feel his love, become as inspired as I'm becoming in the changes of the world and so forth. It's going to be incredible. Absolutely incredible. In the meantime, unfortunately, while he's speaking in incognito, of course, we have the FUD, right? The fear, uncertainty, and doubt about the situation. We have these tsunami of crises that just keep hitting the shores of humanity, one after the other, after the other, after the other. But, in time, just be patient and wait. We will eventually start to see him and know that he's here and are, hopefully we'll take his advice as a group, as a whole humanity will look to him for the advice on the way out, the way out of our problems, you know what I mean? We're in a hole, man. We got to dig ourselves out. But anyway, thank you for that comment. I really do appreciate it. Now, the next comment says, Pope Francis is a black pope. Is he really? I don't know which Pope Francis you're talking about. The one I know of that's at the Vatican, he's quite Caucasian. I don't think he can dance whatsoever. No, I'm just kidding. No, anyway, I know what you mean. But anyway, he goes on to say, and this is just his opinion, it's not mine, but he belongs to the sect of the Jesuits, which is true. But this is his opinion that I'm just going to read it anyway. We'll talk about this. It will open up the conversation about something. But anyway, what he said was, who believe the importance of building the third temple of the Mount of Mary in Jerusalem before the return of the Lord Jesus Christ, and this is for the coming of the enemy of the Christ, and there is a prophecy of the demise of Israel after 76 years from the year 1948, that is around 2024. All right, whatever you say. A couple things. First of all, I don't think the state of Israel is going to go anywhere. The Israeli-Palestinian issue is really a family fight. They're all relatives from eons ago, and they're fighting over stuff that they don't even remember what they originally were fighting for. But it's kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys here in the eastern part of the United States. There's a folklore about these two families that just kept fighting back and forth, and they're really the Hatfields and the McCoys, really, and they've been fighting over that land for eons. Now, the Israelis are going to have to learn to live with the Palestinians. They're there, they've been there, they have a right to that land, and and so forth. And it's really going to take Maitreya, who's the Imam Mahdi for the Muslims and the Messiah for the Jews. It's going to take the Imam Mahdi / Messiah to help resolve that situation peacefully. And according to the masters, until that region experiences peace and they create peace in that area, there'll never be peace in the world. So it must be done at some point. But like I said, I don't think humanity, those two sides were so divided, but I don't think humanity in and of itself, no matter who the world leader is, I know Jimmy Carter tried and other world leaders have tried, but it's always failed at some point. It's going to take somebody at the level of the Christ or the Imam Mahdi, whichever viewpoint you have of Maitreya, to help get that job done. But anyway, it will eventually happen, and eventually that family will come together and they'll realize that they're brothers and sisters and cousins and all sorts of stuff, and hopefully we'll be living in a much different world 100 years from now. So anyway, hopefully that helps. Now, the next two questions come from Paul B. Now, he asked a couple really good questions in the last couple of videos. He said, you answered my questions about Jehovah and Gnosticism satisfactorily. Thank you. And again, I do apologize about missing it the first go-around. I have two unrelated questions. Is Maitreya going to reveal himself to humanity by 2025? That's the first question, okay. I believe that is the date Alice Bailey and DK gave. And does Maitreya have an opinion on man-made climate change? Does he think humans caused it, or think it is just caused by solar weather? Some people, such as Nur Shaviv, an Israeli physicist, believe climate change is a result of solar weather rather than human industry. But there have been many who promote the idea of man-made global warming, who say spirits gave telepathically communicated messages about the topic. All right. Well, thank you, Paul, for this. Now, I don't know if you're saying that the questions are unrelated to your previous questions. Maybe that's what you're saying, but the two questions that you just listed in this comment are not unrelated. They're actually directly related to one another. So let me explain. So the first thing I want to say about this is spirits gave telepathically communicated messages about the topic of global warming. Well, there's also scientists who have scientific evidence and proof and have been trying, exhausting, just every single day to convince our world leaders that it's a problem and that if we don't tackle the problem, it's going to get very, very serious. But so it's not necessarily about telepathically communicated messages about this. I mean, they have the evidence, so it's just our world leaders are so wrapped up in commercialization, they don't want to listen. That's the problem. Now, to get back to your questions, where is it? Is Maitreya going to reveal himself to humanity by 2025, in your estimation? So, to answer this question honestly, Paul, your guess is really as good as mine, because I am literally just guessing. Now, is it an educated guess or just a guess just off the cuff? I don't know. I would say, based on what I believe about the crises that we're experiencing today with the ecological crisis and, of course, the need to create peace and the instability with that and the political divisions and so forth, that it's my humble opinion, if he does not reveal himself, meaning that he does not come out and say, I'm Maitreya on the day of declaration, inspire humanity to build a brilliant golden civilization based on righteousness and truth, or the other way of putting it is to galvanize humanity to make these changes, that it might be too late. And I think we'll look back on this time when, and the length of time that it took humanity to start to respond to Maitreya on TV, to where he was able to, increase the tenor of his message and the tempo of his message to where people could pick up on that's him. Because that's really what you're saying. I mean, he's already on TV, right? It's just nobody knows he's on TV yet, really, or a few people do, but not the majority of people don't, right? That it will look like, I don't know if you ever watch superhero movies where the heroine's falling off the building and just before she hits the ground, he swoops in and saves her. It's going to be like that for humanity, really. It's going to be the last very, very last second that we could have waited, or we would have just gone right off the cliff. That's my opinion. Now, so that's my estimation. Now, you're not the first person to say that they had read that Alice Bailey wrote that 2025 was when he was coming out. I don't know where you're getting that. I haven't read every one of Alice Bailey's books. I have most of her books, but I never read anything about 2025 really being anything. Now, there was the Master DK talked about a renaissance that was coming around this time of 2020 to 2025-ish and starting, right, where there would be another group of great artists and artisans and so forth and musicians that were going to come on the scene in the same way that the Renaissance painters were back, hundreds of years ago. But it would also lead to a renaissance in people's lives. I don't know if that's where they're getting it. The only time frame that I remember, and it really was a time frame, it wasn't a specific date, right? When DK talked about, through Alice Bailey, talked about the return of the Christ coming back, it was around the turn of the last century. So the last quarter, the last 25 years, maybe 1975 to 2000. That was, and I don't remember where I read it, and I couldn't find it. It would take me days and days and days of trying to find that exact page and quote, right? But that's just kind of what I remember it. In the event, Maitreya, historically, he came into the modern world on July 19th, 1977. He came into the city of London. So that was correct. But in terms of him revealing himself as Maitreya by 2020, 2025 or whatever, never seen that. Because these masters, they don't look at time the same way that we look at time. So when a master looks at time, they're looking at it as all as one event happening now. Past, present, and future all happening at one time. When it comes to them making predictions, because Benjamin Krim talked about it over the years, kind of giving people hints about how they see time, but it was just a hint. It's not actually how they see it. But he said when a master, or his master or Maitreya, used the word soon, it's about 25 years. That's soon for them. For us, it's a long time, right? But, that's their perspective on it. The time that I saw Maitreya back in 2008, and he said, I'll see him on TV real soon, and he's going to change the world together. Now, it was 2 years from then to when he actually went on TV. Maybe that's what he was talking about. But if he was specifically talking about me seeing him on TV soon, it's been 12 years and I haven't seen him yet. Or that I think, right? So I guess I still have 13 years left before that prediction wouldn't be true. But from my perspective, 12 years is a long time. I've lived a lot of life in the last 12 years. I've aged a lot, right? But from him, it's like, nothing, right? It's just a few things. So if you ever see Maitreya in public and he asks for money and he says he'll pay you back soon, I would not expect a dime for another 25 years. Hopefully that puts it into perspective. But the other thing too is, there's a couple things I want to say about the way that the masters view time from what Benjamin Krim talked about. He said that they look at the future in terms of infinite number of threads, from the least likely all the way to the most likely scenario, right? So when they make a prediction, they're making it on the most likely scenario. They're not ever saying it's 100% accurate. Now there are like posts in the future that will definitely happen. Like for instance, Maitreya definitely was going to come on TV. Maitreya definitely is going to do the Day of Declaration and so forth. There will definitely be peace in the world at some point. But those are all based on humanity's free will, the law of cause and effect, and there's other situations too, like cosmic energies impending upon the planet and so forth that they have to deal with and counteract sometimes, or use it to stimulate humanity. So there's a lot going on, that would be no way for them to accurately say on 2025 that's when it's going to happen, because humanity could change the whole scenario. So for instance, back when Alice Bailey was just starting to write those series of books with the Master DK, okay, Maitreya was training a disciple, Krishnamurti, to be the vessel for the world teacher for this age of Aquarius, just like Jesus was 2,000 years ago for the age of Pisces. He was being trained daily to be able to be overshadowed by Maitreya. Krishnamurti called it the process. He never really went into a lot of detail about it, but apparently the process caused him a great deal of headaches and neck pains and stuff. But he was being trained to in that role. Okay, that was right when Alice Bailey started, and then World War II happened. Of course, the Antichrist energy was released through the Axis powers and so forth. But what happened was, and this is really important, how that the masters view time. They were expecting to come back themselves, like they're doing now, like Maitreya coming back into the world along with this group of masters another 1,000 years from now. So this was just in the 1920s that they were thinking this. Okay, that was going to happen. So then the Antichrist was released, energy was released through the Axis powers, through Hitler and Germany and Japan, the fascists in Italy and so forth. It was released to those 3 points, destroyed the old ways of thinking and relating. It did its job, okay? But during that time, the Nazis were really about to construct an atomic bomb. The Allies were working on it, but they were actually farther behind than the Nazis. And the masters saw it as, if the Nazis got the blueprints on how to build a atomic bomb first, right? They could have blackmailed the entire planet into submission. It would have been disastrous, and we probably would all be speaking German right now, right? Sprechens die Deutschen right now. So Maitreya went to Shambhala and pleaded with the Lord of the World, Sanat Kumara, to release those secrets to the Allies, because from the planetary logos point of view, everything is neutral. You know, there's a biblical saying, the sun shines on the good and the evil the same way. That's what that's what the Bible's talking about. So he went to him and pleaded with him to give them the secrets, which he did. Now, once that happened, okay, then the masters all of a sudden saw that we could destroy ourselves. Then it went from a very unlikely scenario that we would destroy ourselves to a very, very likely scenario that we would destroy ourselves. So that's when Maitreya made the announcement that he would have to come back. He couldn't rely on, not that Krishnamurti was unreliable or lazy, it was just he couldn't do what Maitreya can do, because he's not the Christ, right? So Maitreya said he would have to come back far sooner than was originally anticipated, just a couple decades, prior to this, is what they were thinking, right? So that's how fast it changed, based on humanity, right? Now, then DK said that it would be around the last quarter of the last century, and then Maitreya said that there would have to be a measure of peace that would be established. Humanity would have to start to do something. It might not have looked like it did it, but we did to some degree, and then Maitreya did exactly what he said in the Bible. He came like a thief in the night in an hour when you least expect it. So he slipped into London on July 19th, 1977, right? So that's how things change like that. And then the other thing too is, there was an example that also where we could look at an example like this. Maitreya made a series of predictions in the mid to late 80s about certain things, the ending of apartheid, the end of the Cold War, and so forth. Now, he also made a prediction about the then President Bush. And when George W. Bush's father, George H.W. Bush, was president, he became so popular, his approval rating was in the 90s. I mean, I don't know when they started doing, polling people for approval ratings for presidents, but I don't know if they didn't do it back during George Washington's time. I don't even know if George Washington would have had that 90% approval rating for as good a president as he was, or Abraham Lincoln or whatever. I mean, the biggies, right, in terms of president. But George H.W. Bush was sitting at a 92% approval rating. Most presidents are under 50% if they're lucky, and then above 35 if they're, doing pretty bad. And then if they're doing exceptionally well, it's in the low 50s. So you see what I'm saying? So when he made the prediction that George H.W. Bush would lose the next election to a Democrat, George H.W. Bush's approval rating, like I said, was in the 90s. Nobody would have ever thought that he would have lost an election. But he said that whoever wins the Democratic nomination, which ended up being Bill Clinton, would be the next president. In fact, when he made that prediction, Bill Clinton wasn't even on anybody's political radar for that matter, right? So it was just, looking back on it, it's like, wow, how could he have done that? Well, he said himself, it wasn't a prophecy. He was looking at the law of cause and effect. And there must have been some karmic reason why he said that. Either it was based on George Bush, or based on our country, or based on the world, or all three together. But it was karmic was the reason why. And so we got to look at it like that. So, but could have humanity at that time changed the karma in some way, shape, or form, and then George H.W. Bush had kind of gone against his prediction and became a president? Yeah. I mean, one instance was the son, George W. Bush, Benjamin Krim's master, made a prediction that he was going to die in office. And there was a situation, I don't know if you remember it, where George W. Bush was riding a bike or something and choked on a pretzel and fell and almost hit his head, or because he had like a bandage on his head. Well, that was supposed to be when he died, according to Benjamin Krim's master, but the forces of darkness mitigated his karma some kind of way to save him. So I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why. So it's hard to. I know I kind of went off on a tangent. That's why I wanted to answer that question specifically. Now, in terms of the environment, let's get on to that. Okay. Now, does he have an opinion about whether climate change is man-made? I'll have to go with what Benjamin Krim's master said and understand that he's speaking for the hierarchy and he's speaking for the masters, so he's not speaking on his own. So what he said was, it's 80% man-made, 20% of natural causes. So both sides are technically wrong and both sides are technically correct on the climate issue. So it's not a black or white like so many Republicans like to think, or even, people who are really big commercial, into commercialization, and those environmentalists. It's not black and white. It's 80%, 20%, according to the masters. It's dangerous, and it is, the environment is heating up, and it's causing problems. And if we don't take care of it and tackle it, yes, it could be the demise of the planet. But I do want to read something from Benjamin Krim's master's article about this, because it really talks about what the real danger is to the environment. And it will come as a shock when environmentalists and those who've been fighting daily to see climate justice, right? It will come as a shock when the world teacher says to them that as bad as climate change is, this is worse. Okay, so we're going to get into that in a second. So anyway, does that answer that question? And, the other thing too about this, and before I get into reading the Ben's Master's article, is if you remember when the lockdowns happened, right? I don't know if you went for a walk outside, but how clean the air was for the weeks that we were locked down. It was amazing, right? And the temperature this spring was actually much cooler than the springs of known memory that I've had, right? So is the fact that we've been locked down either totally for a month or two, and then now we're kind of semi-locked down or doing a lot of social distancing and not out driving around, not producing a lot of stuff, is that having a positive effect on the environment? I sure hope so. Is that going to buy us a little bit of time? Hopefully, right? So getting back to that question about the 2025, maybe, possibly, it could be a little longer depending upon humanity, right? If we bought ourselves some time from that too. So that could be the other option of it too. But I want to read this here. This is coming from Benjamin Krim's master about what the real problem is with the environment. He says, great as is the peril posed by global warming, this unfortunately is not the greatest or most hazardous faced by man today. Did he but know it, man is engaged in a slow but steadily increasing intoxication of the race and of the lower kingdoms. Toxicity, pollutions of all kinds, and in all fields is now the greatest danger to men, animals, and the earth itself. All are poisoned and sick in their own way. Unknown to men, but evident to us, the greatest harm sustained by man and planet in this sorry tale is caused by nuclear radiation. So there you have it. And then if you look at the background photo of this video, the Save Our Planet SOP, the masters are hoping that phrase, SOP, goes viral, because every person on this planet has something to contribute to help save our planet environmentally. And it will take every single person to help the planet, really. It's not just going to be a few. It's not just going to be our world leaders that we have to let them do it's not going to be the masters for sure. Every one of us have to do something. So that's where that comes into that. And it's becoming dire, really. And we put it off for so long that they've been talking about this for decades. And now it's coming to the point where we've kicked the can down the road long enough that there's no more road left. We have to do something about it. Maitreya is, when he does reveal himself, hopefully it is before 2025, and even before he declares himself as Maitreya, when he increases the urgency of his messages and the tempo of his message and so forth, he will be talking at great length about the need to save our environment. It's important. It's the absolute most important thing we could do next to peace. So those two things, we got to do both those things. And then the other thing I was going to add too is a friend of mine met somebody who was an inventor, and through the course of her talk, she found out that he actually had an experience with the Master Jesus one night, and it was a light. He appeared as a light at the end of his hallway or another room or something. Anyway, so she asked Ben, about this light that this guy had, and this guy they became very close friends and so forth. And he said, yes, it was the Master Jesus who did it. And he also said that when Maitreya comes out and is known for who he is, this gentleman is going to be, he's going to ask him if he can go to the world leaders and convince them to shut down the nuclear reactors. And he told my friend, he goes, and when she told him what Benjamin Krim said, he said, I have the connections, I can do that. So that's how it's going to get done too. Maitreya knows those people who he can count on to help save the planet, and we're all a part of it, right? We all have a part to play in this. And SOP, save our planet. That's why I have it at the end of one of the videos. Remember to SOP, save our planet. I'm not very good about having anything go viral, but I'm trying my best to get it going. So anyway, SOP, baby, save our planet. It's the only one we got. But anyway, thanks for all the questions. And Paul, I hope I answered your 2 questions. So you guys have a great day, and I look forward to more questions in the future. Take care.
Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.